3, 2, 1. You're now tuned into USSFCU Spotlight, where real conversations meet real people. Today's episode, Tagged, Tracked, and Hacked, hosted by our unofficial MC, Eddie Villanueva.
Spooky season may be upon us, but there's nothing scarier than being unaware of how your social media can be used to put you and your loved ones in danger. Welcome back to the Spotlight Podcast, and I'm your host, Eddie Villanueva, and this is where we shine a light on topics that matter most to you and our communities as well. Before we think kicks off, we want to state that this episode is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and the discussion taking place, opinions and experiences shared by the guest and myself are not to be considered as legal or financial advice. Now, did you know that October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month? As a millennial, by the way, a proud millennial, who really grew up with social media, the doom scrolling, posting, sharing, liking can feel all like a harmless fun or a great way to disconnect from the world, but those little updates might be exactly what those scammers are waiting for. Today, we are discussing how social media feed can enable fraud and how it all can be tied back to your bank account. And then chat, I'm not by myself. I got two special people with me, so if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Galo.
All right, Miss Sylvia Galo, and
my name is Mohammed Hassan.
Mohammed Hassan. Please share a bit about your backgrounds.
I am currently the VP of Deposit Products and Support Services at USSFCU. I've been in the credit union and financial industry for over 25 years, and I have seen, as part of my line of work, some fraud that is committed against our members.
Wow, imagine. So thank you very much, Ms. Sylvia, for sharing that. As you can see, times have not changed. The strategy has changed, but scam has always been those hot topics that we want to talk about and make our members aware of as well. Mohammed, please tell me about yourself.
Yeah. So thank you guys for having me. I am representing our IT department and the cybersecurity team. And as Eddie mentioned, this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So the emphasis is on cybersecurity and awareness for our users and our community to stay safe, stay vigilant, and be very, very proactive, not just reactive, in safeguarding their social media presence.
Wow, very interesting how, Mohammed, you worded that, and I appreciate you for doing that introduction, because not only you in charge of keeping us as the employees safe, but most important, our members safe as well, correct? All right, so let me ask you, Ms. Sylvia, when I post about my weekend or a tag location, does that really matter to anyone outside of my circle? Do you think that's a risk?
You know what? I think Mohammed will agree as well that it's 100%. It matters more than it matters to your grandmother and your auntie that is trying to see what you're posting and trying to catch up with you.
Yeah.
So I would say that sometimes we post and we really don't know what we're giving away in terms of information. It may seem innocent enough, but take, for example, Eddie, you posted this weekend about your birthday celebration. A great picture, delicious cake, but think about what information that post gave away. What do you think, as a potential scammer or a bad actor, I can decipher just from that one post? Your name? What else?
Excellent.
Your birth date?
Your birthday?
And if it's a milestone birthday, I can probably even figure out the year that you were born.
Your dad was
Wow.
born,
So
exactly.
just from that simple post, I can decipher that information. Now think about maybe some other post. You post a picture with your pet. Mohammed, what do you think that tells us?
Exactly.
Pet's name? Sometimes innocent pictures. I post pictures of my daughters. I actually happened to do a social media search last night just to prepare for this episode and see what would I be able to decipher if I just looked at random strangers' profiles. Well, I ran into a
Amazing.
post of a high school classmate of mine, and she was celebrating her daughter's 21st birthday. And it was a very, very touching post and had pictures of her daughter as a baby. I didn't know she had a daughter, but just from that one post, I knew that not only does she have one daughter, she has two daughters. I know her daughter's name. And because she was celebrating her 21st birthday, I also knew, I was able to calculate the date that her daughter was born. So think about those posts that we put out there, like I said, with the intent to share with our friends and our family, just having a good time. But the little pieces of information and the breadcrumbs that we are leaving out there in social media about our identity.
Exactly.
Wow, that's very important what Miss Sylvia said, because it might do something harmless, like, oh, that mom, your friend was very proud to celebrate her daughter's birthday. But little do you know who's your audience, who's looking at that. Even if your account is private, these scammers have so many ways to look at your accounts, and like you were saying, based on the pictures, the baby pictures, they can find out if, even this person is married, And because sometimes, let's say, for example, your friend tagged those family members, and they can find out like, oh, they have more family, in the area, or, maybe outside of the area. So, Mohammed, imagine, like, I'm sure that you posted your weekend before, and little did I know that somebody could find all that information from that, huh?
Exactly. First of all, I'm really proud of the points that Sylvia made. The points that she made are critical. Like, for example, that's your PII, right? Your personal identifiable information. So imagine just having a birthday, right? You have a birthday, you have your month, your date, and if that has like a date candle, your year candle on it, like how old are you, right?
Wow.
Like even if it's not even a milestone, just like she said, like the hackers are, like malicious actors are looking for any information they can find to socially engineer you, your relatives. Probably they're taking your information, but they're making a snare or a trap for your loved ones, close ones, right? Like, hey, it's Eddie's birthday. Like a phishing email. Socially engineering is taking that social information from your account, harvesting it, then using that information for, future attacks on you, your loved ones, your close ones. Like, we get impersonation attacks.
Yes, we
from
do.
Eddie is messaging me, hey, Mo, it's my birthday, right? I'm stuck in a spot. Can you help me now? I know it's Eddie's birthday because I've seen it on social media. But I'm being socially engineered. Why? Because they're taking somebody who's close to me and they're using that information to then, hop skip and using that information to attack my vigilance, attack my information, and taking something out of me, right? It could be a scam. It could be a phishing or a phishing scenario or a simulation that they're putting in front of me to take information out of me.
Wow.
Having said that, the point she made, the information that you can take out of it, right? There's your date, there's your year. I could say, okay, now I can go back to 1994, right? Now that's your date and that's your year. And I know the month, I know your full name. The only thing I know to open a credit card or probably something is your social security number. And if I can get other pictures and I go through them, and if you're sharing your location, I could pretty much get the address from your geolocation. So not everything that you share, guys, on social media is for the world to see. It's not public. Your information is private and it should be secure. And privacy means privacy, obviously.
It's very interesting, Mohammed, what you mentioned, because when Miss Sylvia was expressing the information that, your friend has shared, us as, for lack of better terms, common folk, we just think about like, oh, you can find out the birthday, you can find out the family members, the location. But then you put it into perspective, because these hackers, they don't just go, in the surface, they go deep into the,
Exactly.
into the information, and they can look like your IP address, like you say. They can find out like, okay, and due to that IP address, they can find out the zip code as well, and they can find out your address. So that's very interesting, because as normal people, perhaps we don't think that cybersecurity portion that, hey, these hackers can do so much with so much little information. And that's something to worry about, something that we see that people get scammed all the time.
Exactly. Let me share something. Like, for example, going off the really valid point Sylvia made is like, I have that information now. Now, that is like common knowledge that you obviously have to protect that. But now on a skill where we have that technical knowledge and the technical know-how on how to use that information, manipulate that information, now there are a lot of breaches, right? When you come across breaches from T-Mobile, like background check agencies have breaches. There are like huge breaches of Facebook. Social media, Telegram, everybody uses, social media. So I take your name, Eddie, I put it in, OSA, and I just do open source reconnaissance on you, and I can basically find out what your phone number is.
Wow.
Right? Then I could swap. I could do a lot of things, like you get your token from your bank account that will come onto my phone as well, because I'm doing a SWIFT swap attack. So there are a lot of technicalities that, there's more than fiat at the end. That, like normal folks, they are vigilant, but they don't know what goes at the back. I could do a search, and then if that data is exposed in T-Mobile or a background agency, right? They do background checks, HR, people are applying to different stuff, and they've applied in the past, but they didn't have a good security posture, they got breached. Now I have your social security number 2. Imagine what I can do with that.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine what I can just get access to, basically.
And then, I like that you mentioned to be mindful, because there's so much softwares out there that, people don't know about, that's not open to the public, because unfortunately the purpose of those, softwares is to do damage.
Yes.
And, to do damage, you put somebody's name. And that's the reason we always encourage also like the passwords, make sure that your passwords are unique, very strong. Because as Ms. Sylvia and Mohammed have expressed, it's one of those things that by finding out that information, and if you make your password so easy, like your name and your date of birth, you most likely will be very compromised.
Exactly.
So, it's something that, as Mohammed was saying, be very vigilant. Make sure that you don't post anything out there that's going to be compromising you. And as Ms. Sylvia said, make sure that you are mindful of your audience as well, because you don't know who's watching.
You don't know who's watching it, and some of the information that provides. If you think about some of our, security passwords or some of our challenge questions, some of those are as easy as, what's your pet's name? What's your oldest child's name? So what's your favorite vacation spot? And if you're posting, here I am in my favorite vacation spot, you're providing clues to what some of those security answers could possibly be.
Wow, it's all security questions, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes we just take them so lightly, because I'm like, nobody knows where I like to travel. Nobody knows my pet's name. But you're like, happy birthday, Fluffy, whatever, your pet's name is.
Yeah.
And then you can compromise a lot of information. And not only information about you, but those around you as well.
Exactly, those around you, Eddie. Like, for example, like Sylvia mentioned, you're using that information again as a attacker, right? My whole intent as an attacker, to know your enemy, you have to think like your enemy. So that's how you can safeguard yourself better. So in order to safeguard yourself, obviously keep your private things private, right? And if you're sharing information, it should be to an extent, right? Well, for example, like we were mentioning, like sharing your location, sharing your addresses. Like, I think some years back, there was a really upcoming, artist. His name was Pop Smoke, right? What he did, he shared his location. And he shared, I'm over here. I'm partying. And they saw his address on the mansion, Airbnb mansion they were renting. Yep. And what they did with that, even if they were not cyber attackers, they were malicious people who had malicious intent. They tried to rob him. And in that whole scenario, their loss of lives, property, and it's just sad.
Yeah.
So social media is supposed to connect us, not, expose us at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially if you post in, let's say, your location.
Yes.
That gives that person with the mouth and, the bad intentions, hey, if Mohammed is not at his home, that means that his house is exposed, his computer is not being used, whatever it is, and perhaps you put the guard down because you're like, I'm on vacation. I'm not going to worry about my security features on my work computer and my bank account. You're just, in vacation mode. So always be very vigilant and very alert. Thank you very much. Wow, this is very insightful.
Yeah.
I'm learning, with you all, and we have the experts. That's the reason why we brought these two amazing people to learn a little bit more together. Now, let's connect the dots. Or connect the dots for me, actually, I should say. Give you some assignments, some homework.
Okay.
Yeah. I started with Ms. Sylvia, so we're going to ask this question to, Mohammed is, how do you go from mass story post from a concert to someone trying to get into my bank account?
Like, for example, somebody trying to get into your bank account is probably they're leveraging a lot of information that you've obviously provided them. That's what we say, that, social media is powerful. But, now in the day and age we're living, countries, not just us, state actors are like really troubled by the power of social media, right? And the power it possesses to like portray information, to portray images, right? Everybody has to safeguard that. But having said, let's digress to your question. How can it be used to, like, get access to your bank account? So like Sylvia mentioned, and we're having great points, and it makes me really happy that our users, our community is very cyber aware, and that because at the end your first firewall is the human firewall. No matter the amount of budget we spend, no matter how much we invest into the tools, the latest hardware, the software, at the end it's just one click away from havoc. So that is very important. So your bank account question is, Eddie, somebody would get into your bank account if it's not properly secured, right? You have to build a perimeter, and then let me explain it in common terms. Like, for example, if you have a house, right, you won't just have a door on at the front, right? You would make sure that the door has a lock, then the lock on top has a camera that you could talk to or see that who's coming in, coming out. So what is that? That's the mindset of having multiple layers of security, right? For your benefit. So that's what you would do with your bank account. You would have a strong, unique password. People are guilty of having the same password for every single account. That's why, guys, you have to use password managers, encrypted password managers like LastKeep or Bitwarden that we ask our users to use. And then you have multiple unique hard passwords that would take a malicious actor millions of years just to decipher and decode, because it's doing your work for you. And it's preventing a lot of homoglyph attacks. And where I say layers of security, there should be MFA, multi-factor authentication. Okay, they get, say in a scenario of content computing, they get access to your password. Now they don't have access to your MFA. You have that set up, right? And only you have access to that. Then there's no single point of failure, basically. Right? There's multiple layers that they have to circumnavigate across in order to get access to your bank account. That's why a lot of credit unions have code words. They have your phone number on file. When they authenticate that, they send a one-time code. Okay, so somebody has access to that, right? Temporarily. Then they do different checks. Okay, do you have access to your physical card? Well, what are the last digits? What are the first 4 digits? Okay, what's your security code? Malicious actor wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know.
Because it's a physical point of security. So there are multiple points of security. Your location, what you have, where you are, what you're using, and how you've secured your password. So there are multiple layers. So that's how you secure yourself.
Wow, the human firewall. I like that term.
Firewall.
You're the first person that can avoid for an attack to happen.
Absolutely.
As long as you do your due diligence. As the user. Setting up those perimeters that Mohammed was talking about. Miss Sylvia, same question for you, but I wanted to put into perspective.
Okay.
I know we talk on the personal level every time we're in the office. We talk a little bit. I have my quote-unquote therapy sessions with Miss Sylvia. She gives me a lot of advice about life. I know that one of your daughters, if I'm not mistaken, your younger daughter, she's such a big fan of concerts and a specific, group that she loves to see.
Yes.
And I'm sure that she, seems like she's just posting, the story, oh, my favorite artist and screaming and everything, But how compromised can that be from her posting that story of her favorite artist to getting into your bank account? Because perhaps mom is the one financing those concerts. You don't know, but how dangerous can that be?
First of all, mom is financing those concerts because she's not old enough to finance it for herself. But actually, I think that's a great question, especially when it comes to the young people, because I think they don't think about it. For them, it's just fun, and they want their friends to see. Oh, I'm at for her, it would be a K-pop concert. So I think TXT was the last group that she went to go see. So yes, we have to have these conversations with her because she wants to go to the TXT concert. Oh, and then she posed, having fun, actually screaming her head off at the TXT concert. But she'll post that information, where she posts that information, Eddie, as a mom, I'm looking and I said, okay, I see this, but what other strangers or bad actors see this? So what can they tell from her post that she's at a TXT concert? Well, now they know that she's a fan of TXT. They also know, oh, she's at Capital One Arena because that's where the concert took place on that date. They know what date the concert was. So they have all of that information, and they can easily use that information to tailor either a text message to her saying, hi, we see that you're at a TXT concert. Click here and take advantage, and we will offer you a VIP backstage pass. Do you think for 1 minute my daughter would not click on that text thinking, if I click here, I can actually go backstage and see TXT because my mom would not get me the VIP tickets to go backstage? Of course she would, without thinking. And why? Because it's very targeted. It seems like it's going to come from somebody that knows exactly where she is. It could be Ticketmaster. It could be something that is spoofed to look like something very, very legitimate, but it's not. And what happens when she clicks on that link? They'll probably say, please input your mom's credit card information. She'll put in all the details of my credit card information thinking, oh, I'm going to get to see TXT backstage. But in actuality, it's a scammer that now has my credit card information and can go ahead and commit fraudulent transactions on that. So I think you bring up a very good point, because to make that jump from a selfie to actually compromising somebody's possible bank account information or credit card information, it seems like it's a big leap. But it's not a big leap if you're able to connect the dots on how these scammers can take advantage of gathering that information, kind of creating all that little bit of information into a profile, and then targeting that information, whether it's by text, whether it's by email, whatever fits that target demographic that they would respond to. They're creating that urgency.
Exactly.
Act now, because these tickets will be gone. She will be clicking in no time flat and not even thinking about the consequences or that the possibility that this is not legit.
You know, I like something that stood out to me that you said, Miss Sylvia, is that the common, I guess, factor between all these scams that, you know, these fraudsters want to do, the urgency.
The urgency.
Hey, you need to call me now. You need to click now. Oh, 5 more minutes for you to meet that artist, you know, backstage or something like that. So it makes me think, like, you know, some of the red flags is like, if it's too good to be true, or if it's so urgent that they're pushing you, maybe you shouldn't be, you know, clicking that link or answering that call.
That is correct.
And like Ms. Sylvia was saying as well, you might think like, oh, from posting the selfie to, you know, posting the concert to getting into my pockets, oh, that's, you know, that's such a big gap. But one post can make a huge difference, you know,
power.
Because the power, and as Ms. Sylvia was saying, if they see who the artist is, what the date is, and everything like that, they can go into like social media or, you know, their software. It's like, oh, what platform did they use for the ticketing, you know, the distribution? Oh, they use Ticketmaster. And like you were saying, they can just mimic that. Spoof it looks so natural. Spoofing, right?
Yeah. So basically, then escalating the bar from what Sylvia said, you know, again, I can emphasize how proud that we are of, you know, the cyber awareness of our users, and that, you know, what they know is that the urgency is always the key factor, and how much they're pushing it on to you, right? And it's always like, hey, can you do this? Either it is like, you know, you're going to miss out on this exceptional deal, or it's something playing with human emotions, right? Like, what is the most critical asset that any organization has, right? It's not their financials, obviously, that would come into mind, like financials of an organization. It is not their physical property, it's their staff, it's their human property, human intellect, the human emotions that anybody can play with and do exceptional harm to any organization. Then what we need to make a habit of, like even where we're having this interaction, right? When Sylvia was mentioning that information, right, we should keep the information on a need-to-know basis, right? We should have a habit of sanitizing our information. Like, if, like, for example, let me give an information, right? Like, I'm giving an information. My daughter likes a concert, and she likes artists, right? I could just say the genre of the music. That's enough. But when I specifically mention something, right, I'm opening a door, little doors, for social engineering to manifest and them to captivate and use that. and pivot on that. So every information, every crumb that you have is a cooking crumb and a pivot, right? Now I'm a threat actor, right? So I'm in my mind of an attacker. What would I do with Sylvia's information? Okay, TSX, right? That's
TXT.
TXT. That's the name. Now I remember it. Then I'm going to be like, okay, let me use that information. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to attack the daughter who's at the concert. I can use the information that Sylvia has provided me with creating a deep fake of her daughter's voice. It only takes 3 seconds, right? And I have a real legitimate call that she would get. And it would be like, hey mom, I'm at this concert and I lost my phone. I'm using my friend's phone. Can you give me money? I got a flat tire.
No, I need merch.
Yeah,
merch.
I need merch. Or I got a flat tire. I need to come home, right?
Yep.
Can you provide me with your credit card so I can, get a ride on Uber because I can't use somebody else's Uber?
Yeah.
So can you help me with that? So now Sylvia is obviously a concerned mother.
The sense of urgency,
Right?
once
The
again,
sense
as you
of
can
urgency
see. Yeah.
and emotions, right? Nobody would say no to that. And she recognizes the voice as her daughter's. But what should Sylvia say? Sylvia should say, hey honey, what's the code word? Right? So now, like I mentioned, there are multiple layers, right? Where you have a family code word that only you have privy to, right? Nobody knows that.
Nobody knows.
And I'm on a need to know basis. Everything on social media that you're sharing digitally is forever there then. It would never be deleted. It's gonna stay with you for your generations to see that information. And information is power, right? Social media is powerful because it's sharing information on a grander scale that, nobody can ban the printing press anymore, right? Now the information's out there for you. You could either enlighten yourself or use that for, funds or creating deep fakes. With the advent of AI, it's really possible by creating like Marco Rubio, right? He had a scenario where there was a huge deep fake of his voice, and that was just stirring, political consensus and just stirring the masses. So that's the extent that you can do it, right? On a grander scale and on a much smaller scale, but the intent is about what the target is at the end of the day and what the end goal is. At the end, it's all exploitation, funds, they know credit cards are insured. Okay, if we take the money out of this credit card, at the end of the day, the user would get the money back, but
The financial
institution takes the loss.
takes the loss.
Yeah.
So our whole scenario is we have to be like a beehive where we're safeguarding each other, right? There's a whole link to it, like a honeycomb where we're all protecting each other. So that's how our mindset should be. Like we're protecting the organization's protecting us, and everybody is a link. Is a mutual link. And so we should never think ourselves as, always protected. Oh, we know, right? Even experts, right? Cybersecurity experts can get spoofed.
Definitely.
Right? Everybody has a weakness. And that weakness I'm looking for, or a threat actor is looking for to exploit. So you should always keep yourself, under lockdown for your own benefit.
Whoa, you heard that expert. He gave us a little information, a little tips as well. And then one thing that, I want to highlight is the one thing that you said, Mohammed, and before we go into the next question is, he said, don't leave that door crack open.
Yeah.
Because if a door is closed, let's say a physical door, maybe Sylvia, let's say you're going out of the house, you leave your dog locked. If I want to go into your house, most likely, if not, I probably won't be able to get in because it's locked, it's locked, it's just secure.
Yes.
But if you're like in the rush and you leave your door a little bit cracked, that door has the potential to be wide open, one push or anything like that. And it's the same thing with security, that we want to make sure we don't leave no spaces or no, small crumbs like we're saying.
Layers.
Multiple layers to make sure that you're secure. Now, we know that on social media, we're in the topic of social media, we talk about, sometimes you can post a post on your wall. If you use Facebook, on your timeline, you can post a story. There's so many things that you can do with social media. But sometimes we get, soaked into watching reels, those reels that we keep scrolling and scrolling. Sometimes I wake up, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I wake up at like 2 a.m, to wake up, get a sip of water. Then I'm like, let me check the time. Next, I'm like 3 hours, looking into those reels,
Yes.
they're very, very addicting. So, commercial break, please stay away from your phone when you're sleeping, because otherwise you wake up cranky and you will be very tired. So don't do that, don't be Eddie in that aspect. With that being said, there's so many reels that also are very educational. Some of them teach you like how to make a table, like how to, match your outfits, so many different things, where to travel, what to eat. If you go to this country, what type of food you should try, what places you should visit. There's so many educational reels which are very beneficial as well for society. Now, put yourself in the shoes of a scammer for once, change from,
Right.
change teams for now, Mohammed, you're gonna think that. Miss Sylvia, you change the heels for like a scammer heels, maybe red bottoms. I don't know, whatever scammers wear. I don't know what they wear.
I don't know what
honestly.
scammers do, but I'll take the red bottoms.
If scammers had a highlight reel, if they had a reel that they want to promote something, what tricks will be on it? So what do you think, what tips or components will be in that reel that will be educational for people to be like, as scammers, this is what we want to accomplish and this is how we do it.
Ooh. Let me put on my scammer hat with my red bottom. I think with scammers, they will use every tool in their toolbox to get the information and ultimately compromise your account and take your money. So I think anything from phishing, emails, direct messages is something that's coming up. One of the things that we have seen now is even sending texts saying, well, your account looks like it's been compromised and we need you to call this number. And then you call the number and you get somebody that pretends to be that they're from your financial institution and they create back again to our sense of urgency. We believe that there is fraudulent transactions occurring on your account. Of course, you're like, oh my God, what do I need to do? Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yep.
And they say, first, I need you to, verify your account information or your credit card information, debit card information. And again, the urgency that you're trying to make sure that your account isn't locked down. You're trying to make sure that nobody steals your money. You're providing that information without even questioning, is this legitimate? So you provide that information over the phone. And at times we see that they keep you on the phone and they say, let us run a transaction just to see if we've identified the problem. Can you please stay on the phone? And we do have, as financial institution, tools to try to mitigate and try to protect consumers from fraud. So if there's a transaction that usually doesn't occur on your account, we will send a text notification to alert you that there's an unrecognized transaction in your account and ask you to confirm it. Is this you or is this not? But then the fraudster has you on the phone and saying, did you receive the notification asking you to confirm the transaction? And the consumer is saying, yes, I received it. Click yes. The consumer is trying to help, and they're taking it on authority that they're talking to somebody from the financial institution, somebody that they trust. So if you ask me to put yes, I'll click on yes. Well, they click on yes, and they just now unlock that door to enable that fraudster and scammer to now use that credit card information and proceed to do a lot of other fraudulent transactions without that benefit of that protection anymore. So that's something that I think is, as we start to see more and more of this happening, Mohammed mentioned AI and the use of AI. These scams are getting so scary good that it's really hard for a consumer and for anybody else, even experts, to tell, is this legitimate or is this not legitimate? They're getting that good. And as we move forward, they're just going to get more sophisticated. And right as we figure out a way to try to mitigate and help consumers, something new comes on the table. So that reel that you mentioned is kind of like you scrolling all night. There are so many tools at their disposal, emails, phishing, direct messages. There are even alerts that sometimes look like they're coming from your credit union, like the fraudulent alerts, and they're not from your credit union. But you think they are, and they create that sense of urgency that your account has been compromised. Please click here. You can be downloading malware onto your phone that gives scammers access to even more information on your phone. they're asking you for your online banking credentials to verify them. You provide it, and now they take those credentials and then go ahead and now legitimately access your online account access. The first thing they do is change the username and password so that you can access, and then they have free reign to try to move that money, and they will move that money as fast as they can.
Oh, 100%.
So, yeah, I think the scammers have a lot of tools at their disposal, and they keep changing.
And Miss Sylvia, it's so sad what you mentioned, that there's so many tools at their disposal, but they could be using this for the better, to make this, this society a better place. But unfortunately, they use it for the harm,
Malicious.
And then one of the things that I wanted to point out is the fact that you said trust, like they want to build that trust with the victim. They want to be very familiarized with the victim. Why? Because I want to break a stereotype, and Mohammed, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or even Miss Hill, you can correct me if I'm wrong. When it comes to scammers or fraudsters, sometimes we think of somebody with a black hoodie, with like some shades, kind of like a poker player, that they're very like sketchy, skeptical, and they're just over there, trying to get people, get some victims. But in reality, as Miss Hill was saying, some of these fraudsters, they want to gain your trust, because you're very familiar with your, banking account. You're very familiar with those vendors that you perhaps deal on your personal lives. And then they want you to see something that you're very familiar with so they can get you that way. So when I imagine the real, somebody trying to real, I imagine somebody saying, hey, how you doing? This is so-and-so, the fraudster. And today we're going to start phishing, and this is how you do it. And then it talks about the tools that you have mentioned. So it's one of those things that, maybe I want to break that stereotype that scammers are, scary people. Like when you see them, oh, you can recognize them. Little do you know who can be a scammer around you. So what would that I know this is going to be hard for Mohammed because he has to jump from the good side to a little bit on the bad side, So what will that have as content for social media and for people to learn about scammers?
Eddie, I was thinking on the bad side as soon as I said it. Because you have to think like the bad guy.
Yeah, I got those vibes when I saw him, guys.
Exactly.
He got bad vibes.
The energy, right?
Yeah.
At the end, I have to have that mindset on the mindset of an attacker, right? In order to protect ourselves, right? So like who gets attacked, like how they get attacked, they look exactly like us, because we got to remember, they're not some aliens, right, guys?
Exactly.
They're like humans. They're from dark communities. They're people who have, no sense of morality on who they're targeting. The end goal is financial, like gain, where they can gain the most out of an expectant victim. Unfortunately, the victims are from, a huge, perspective where you see like elderly are being targeted. At the same time, experts are being targeted. Why? Because I think I'm an expert, right? And my guard is down.
You might know it all, you might think.
I think I might know it all. Mm-hmm. And there's a rule always that you never know enough, and you are never safe, because there's always a back door to every expert, right? There's always, everybody has an innate weakness, right? That just needs to be tapped into, right? That's how a malicious actor would think, right? So in order to, like I mentioned, in order to defeat the enemy, you have to think like your enemy. In order to know the attacker, you have to think like an attacker, like a scenario, right? You have to talk like a scenario-based perspective, where I had a friend who was purchasing like furniture from Facebook Marketplace, right? They really liked the furniture, and it was at a really good deal, right? Now the rules come in mind, right? What are those rules? Better be safe than sorry, right? And always, like I mentioned, right? Our little President Reagan said, verify before you trust, right? Always verify before you trust. And if it's too good to be true, folks, it is too good to be true, right? Never trust it. The deal was exceptional. That deal was exceptional. And what they wanted to do is that they then were like, okay, we have a customer coming, but if you send us like in advance, we can hold it off for you. If they come, they get it. It's first come, first get, right?
Yeah.
And what they did was they sent them, $50. And they were like, okay, 50 is not enough. Could you send me, 200 more? Because this furniture is for 4,000, right? And to hold it off, and then he was like, I sent you 50. Why are you asking me for more? That should be enough, for to show my intent. Then he started thinking, he's like, why are they pushing me? They're like, oh, I just need to, buy groceries. I'm stuck in a place where, I have to buy and I'm a little low on budget. And I have my kids over here, so I'm buying milk for my little kids. Now you see what they're doing? They're playing with your emotions. They're playing with your moral, integrity, and they're trying to compromise that integrity. So what he did was he took a step back. He was like, can I visit where you have that furniture? I'd like to see it first before making any transaction or going forward with this. They instantly blocked it.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking he did lose $50, but that loss could have been bigger,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
right? They could have been like, pay us half. That's for $4K, pay us $2K, and we'll keep it for you. So always verify before you trust. Never trust before, it's not the other way around, right? Always verify before you trust.
Always verify before you trust. That will be the real quote for Mohammed. If you create a real scammer, you verify if you trust. And he will, he was talking about that shopping scam, please very vigilant with, what you do, especially online, because you never know who's behind the other
And
screen.
on holidays, when everybody's shopping.
Holidays are across, right around the corner, and people might let their guard down because they're in the spirit of giving and shopping. And, by the way, if you want to give me some for the holidays, please feel free to do so, because I trust you both. So,
Absolutely.
But it's one of those things that, you gotta make sure that where you're putting your credit card information, and, and taking, like you're saying, layers of security. All right, we're gonna, almost wrap this up. This episode has been very interesting. I have learned so much from Sylvia, from Mohammed. You have heard from the experts. But I want to ask you one more thing. One scroll smart tip before we logged off. What would you recommend our viewers?
Wow, just one? That's
Just one.
But I think it would be proceed with caution. And I think I tell this to my daughters because, they're just social media natives and they think it's just a playground, and it's more than, it is fun. It is to connect people. It is to inform. It is to educate and learn. There's multiple, good reasons, but I think they need to be more aware of some of the negative repercussions that are out there. And having a mom who also isn't social media savvy, I have to kind of balance her too. And I think one of the things that I always tell her is please proceed with caution. Not everything that is on social media or the internet is real. She called me the other day telling me, oh my goodness, Robert De Niro died. And I'm like, no. Kind of like Muhammad said, verify. So I'm going looking to see, and I'm like, no, Mom, he's alive and well. Well, YouTube said, I'm like, no, YouTube is not always true. So I think that the proceeding with caution, again, take a step to, pause. If somebody calls you saying they're from your bank or you need to do something right away, that's them trying to get you to act without thinking. So pause. It's okay to hang up on somebody. If you need to call a financial institution, you can do that on your time. It doesn't have to happen right then and there. And on that tip as well, make sure that you are monitoring and using the tools that your financial institution has in place to protect you. I think one of the things, and getting back to my mom, she recently got a debit card because she just pays with cash, doesn't use a debit card. And I said, Mom, there's some places that are starting not to take cash anymore. So let's get you a debit card. So we got her a debit card. So I had to go and show her not only how to monitor that account and log in to make sure that if she does make any transactions, they're her transactions and not somebody else's, but how to use the alerts and the card controls available for that. There's alerts that will notify her if there's a transaction that's made, if there's a deposit or withdrawal. It will notify her almost instantly so that she can match it up to the actual behavior. But under the alerts and controls for the cards, one other thing my mom doesn't do is online shopping. She does not do any online shopping, unlike my daughters who online shop every day. So because we know that's her pattern of behavior, and back to Muhammad's question of, you have to lock those doors, especially the ones that you're not going to use. In this case, my mom doesn't do online shopping. So one of the easiest things for us to do was go into her card management control and lock down and block any transactions that are done online. Because we don't expect her to do anything. So again, that secures at least that avenue for somebody to go and make purchases even if her account is compromised. International transactions, that's another one. Sometimes you will see that there's international actors, bad actors as well, and they do try to get to your account. So looking at some of your patterns of behaviors and controlling and locking and managing those that don't pertain to you will help at least mitigate some of that possible risk.
Wow, thank you very much for sharing that. Shout out to mom for tapping her shopping away. We're so proud of her.
Yes.
But it's one of those things that I imagine like a road, and then when you see like the yellow signs or the orange signs, telling you to proceed with caution.
Proceed with caution.
You don't drive and just let me just drive, and you start driving away. Same thing. If you're gonna do any type of transaction, proceed with caution. I think that's that what I got from that. So thank you very much for sharing that. And then Mohammed, I know you got so many tips, but one smart tip before we let you go.
What I would say, guys, is there's two words: due care and due diligence, right? These are the golden words that you have to keep in mind. And like, Sylvia mentioned, it does not hurt anybody if you take a pause. My default pause is not 5 minutes. I even tell this to my family: pause for 10 minutes. And narrate your mind the scenarios that might happen on this is not legitimate, right? Always, verify it. Then start trusting it. Make your checklist, right? Like, this should be this, they should ask me this, they should ask me this. And it reinforced that in their mind, like, always have a code word. If I reach out to you, I would have a code word, like with the advent of AI. And always, your bank account would never reach out to you. Tax department would never reach out to you. Nobody would ever reach out to you. No phishing, wishing, smishing, like text, anything. These attacks are common because people think, I don't want to be late on my taxes. I don't want my account to be, in negative. I don't want this. What happened, right? Just don't go off the message or the email, right? Go off the physical evidence. First, verify every single thing on your own without somebody pushing you or narrating your train of thought, right? So do it on your own. Have that 10 minutes. 10 minutes don't hurt anybody, or won't even hurt you if you are really in the spot, right? If you need to resolve something, 10 minutes won't cause any harm. So patience is a virtue.
Due diligence, you heard from the expert.
Yeah.
And I say 10 minutes can save you so much headaches.
Yes.
So much headaches that you don't want to go to and the hassles. So thank you very much, both of you, for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom.
Thank you.
Proceed with cautions and do your due diligence.
Yeah.
As the holidays approach, we are all going to want to share those moments with friends and family. But keep in mind to stay skeptical, stay smart, and maybe skip the location tag, at least into after you leave. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode. We appreciate and we hope to see you until the next time. Miss Sylvia and Mohammed, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Eddie. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Also, your voice matters. Share topics, suggestions, or questions for future episodes via email at communications@ussfcu.org with the subject line podcast question or podcast topic. You just might hear it in a future episode. If you're looking to deepen your financial literacy, check out our free weekly Wednesday webinars. Secure your spot now on our website, ussfcu.org/webinar. Thank you for shining with us. Subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode.